You're listening to Rutgers Radio on 88.7 WRSU FM New Brunswick and online at WRSU.org.
Welcome back. We have with us our first guest ever on this show. Yes, I know. It's a big day for all of us here. Our class president, Justin Schulberg, our vice president, Evan Covello, the legislative affairs chair, Avi Desai, and the non-voting student representative to the Board of Governors, Anish Patel. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure. Now, for people who aren't familiar with what the Board of Governors does, could you give us a little background on their roles and responsibilities?
Sure, Ryan. It's a little bit historical in the sense that we have two governing boards at the university. There's the Board of Trustees and the Board of Governors. The Board of Trustees was still when we were a private university, when this was Rutgers College, Livingston College. Back then, when the university became the State University of New Jersey in 1956, the Board of Governors was created so that there could be state input. So basically, anything that happened before 1986, any land owned, any assets owned, is covered by the Board of Trustees. Anything after that is the Board of Governors, and the Board of Governors is the highest decision-making authority at our university today. That's a very brief and simple description, but it really gets the point across.
So, it's funny that you answered that question because I have another one for you. You are the student representative to that board, correct?
Yes, there is one student representative to the board that is elected by the University Senate, which is composed of student senators, faculty and staff senators, as well as alumni senators. They elect one student to represent the entire 67,000 student body to the Board of Governors. That student representative, however, as well as the two faculty representatives that are one that is elected and one that is appointed, are not members of the board, meaning they cannot vote, they cannot participate in double-closed or triple-closed sessions, and they cannot make motions or bring resolutions to the floor.
So in essence, what is your role, and why do you feel that it needs to be expanded?
Well, my role is to advise the Board of Governors on student issues, to make sure that there is student voice being heard in these upper-level administrative meetings. And then, it is a two-way street, to help explain decisions made by the board to the students and make sure that they understand what the Board of Governors is doing with this entire university.
So a big reason that we think we need to expand our role on the Board of Governors is that students don't actually end up having a say. The board can hear what the student representative has to say, but the student's voice doesn't actually make a decision in the final vote. So we think having a student have a vote on this board would make the Board of Governors take us more seriously and take our opinions more into account. We also want to be able to sit in on some of these closed hearings, because in these closed hearings is when they make some of the most important decisions at the university. With the vote and the ability to sit in on some of these meetings, we would actually be able to better convey information from the students to the board and vice versa.
All right, so because of this, you are in support of a bill that would amend the original Rutgers Act of 1956, which granted power to the Board of Governors. Now, how did you guys decide that this was the best route to getting a voting member on the board?
So really going into this whole process, we knew that any route that we take wouldn't necessarily be easy. It's definitely no walk in the park trying to, push for this initiative. But we also knew going into it that we didn't want the student voice to be conditional in the Board of Governors. We wanted to make sure that there would always be some way in place that students would always be able to have their voice heard on some of the most important decisions made by the university. So we knew going into it that we wanted a law to be passed to ensure that students would always be heard.
Definitely. And you've been communicating with our state representatives, and you've got even a few of them to publicly support the bill. Now, how important is the support of these representatives? And do you think that their support will eventually get this bill passed?
Yeah, great question, Ryan. And thank you again for having us on our show. For all the listeners out there, my name's Justin Schulberg. I'm the student body president at Rutgers University. But yeah, your question is spot on. We really can't do this alone. Even though I speak with the weight of 33,000 students on my shoulders, I mean, it's the members of the General Assembly, the State Senate, that are the ones who actually can vote to get this bill through committee, vote to get it through the Assembly of the Senate, and to push Governor Christie to sign this bill into law. We can't do this without any of their support.
Absolutely. And what is really the next step for you guys? Where are you going from here?
So right now, we're going to continue doing what we're doing, as in meeting with, going around the entire state, meeting with legislators from all across the state of New Jersey. And support has been essential with that. We've gotten a lot of support from the Senate and the Assembly. And after meeting with Assemblywoman Mila Jacey she's the chair of the Higher Education Committee in the Assembly, she agreed to put the bill up for a hearing for the committee, which is and this bill has never even gotten to a vote in 13 straight legislative sessions.
And I'm sure, Ryan, you're familiar, or maybe not so familiar, with the complicated legislative process that we have here in New Jersey.
Definitely.
But it is a long process. So obviously, as Evan said, our next step is getting it heard in committee, which the chair of the Assembly Higher Ed Committee has agreed to do. After that, we would hope it would get passed by the committee and then get heard in the Assembly, which is a long process, get passed in the Assembly, get passed through the Senate Committee, get heard in the Senate, get passed through the Senate Committee, get heard by Governor Christie, and hopefully signed into law. And then if he vetoes it, there's a whole nother set of loops that we need to go through. So it is a long process, but we're working diligently. Anisha and I were actually up in Passaic this morning to meet with the legislative staff of Assemblyman Gary Shayer, and then we had to run back for class. So we've been pretty active in
It's
it.
impressive work, guys, seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if this passes, you say that you'll have a stronger voice on the board and that you'll be able to bring the concerns of students directly to the people who can really do something about it. Now, what issues might you want to have discussed?
I would say the most pressing issue that is on students' minds is obviously tuition. College student debt is in a state of crisis in this country. But everyone really knows about tuition. It continues to go up. Lack of state funding forces it to go up in many cases. And that discussion has been having for a long time, and the legislature, the Senate, and the Assembly have been working on that issue for a while. But I think what students might not necessarily realize about the Board of Governors is that they control many aspects of student life. For example, last year, the Rutgers University Student Assembly, the student government for New Brunswick, wrote a medical amnesty policy for the university, one that had never been at this university previously, even though there's a state law. Now, the changes this policy recommended would change a Board of Governors policy known as the Alcohol and Other Drugs policy. So even though that this policy was recommended early last year, it still hasn't made a lot of traction. We think that a student vote, an actual student voting member, could bring these issues up to the board much faster. Because while the university does have pressing concerns in finances, in contractual negotiations, in legal matters, as the students, we have concerns too. We have problems that we face every day at this university, and we need to make sure that those problems can get solved. And this is a big step in making sure that we can make the decisions, that we can make sure our voice is heard, and make life better for students at Rutgers University.
Absolutely. Now, most importantly of all, how can us students help pass this bill? What can the students do?
So, because this bill needs to be passed through the Assembly and the Senate, because this is going to require actual legislative forces behind it, we want public support for this. We want students to get behind it, talk to their legislators if possible, show that all of Rutgers is behind this. This isn't just a student government thing. We've had over 1,500 signatures on a petition over the summer alone that had Rutgers students behind this issue saying that they also believe in what we're fighting for. And so if we have students showing their support for this, their legislators will hear their voices. We are all voting members of this state, and we all have a say in this. So if students really get behind this and show more public support, we think this will make our legislators listen to us. The people we've met with so far have been greatly receptive. We've got a lot of co-sponsors, we've got a lot of help behind this, so we think more of a student push will make this more possible from our legislators.
And just so you all have that info, the petition is on change.org, and the title of it, so you could find it when you search it, is Get a Student Vote on the Rutgers University Board of Governors. And absolutely what Avi said, don't be afraid to call a legislator. You know, there's a whole side of government that is accessible to us. And we can only get this done with student support if you call your legislator, and you could find some of those numbers at njledge.state.nj.us.
And at the crux of it, the best advice we can give to students in any matter like this, or any political matter at all, vote. Get registered. There's a huge campaign here to get people registered. We have the student government in New Brunswick has been working with Turbo Vote. There'll be links distributed. You can get registered on campus, walking around. You can get registered online. We are working to help students get registered and have their voice heard at the state level, just like we're working on it at the university level.
Definitely. Thank you very much for all your time, but I do have you here, and I've been seeing you've been advertising for RUSA elections, so I figured you'd probably want to talk a bit about that before you guys go. So.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan, and thanks for bringing that up. So we're actually we have 30 new positions, over 30 positions open right now to join RUSA, to be on the team that's going down to Trenton, going up to Passaic, meeting with these legislators, and doing a whole wide variety of legislative advocacy issues. It just doesn't have to be legislative. It could be about athletics if you care about that. It could be about sexual assault prevention. Those elections, to find out about them, you can go to our website, www.ruassembly.com, to find out more about our elections and find out how to get involved. The deadline to actually declare your intent to run for RUSA is September 21st, so you just have to check it before then, fill out the form, and get on your way to getting elected in RUSA and helping us out with all the great work that we're trying to do at this university.
Every Rutgers University student body president, every vice president, every student representative of the Board of Governors started somewhere. So if any student is looking for a chance to get involved in this process, in this institution, this is your chance. Welcome.
There are a lot of great opportunities here. I mean, we've been talking about how we've been meeting with people in Trenton. At times you go down to Washington, D.C., but also if you want to get more involved in Rutgers, this is a great way to do that. You get to meet administrators, faculty, staff. This is a great chance for you to grow in student government. RUSA is a great tool to help you, and so definitely look out for information about these elections, get involved, and run for a position.
And just one more thing, if you're not interested in actually running for a position, come to a meeting anyway. Our meetings are Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. in the Student Activity Center on College Ave, and you don't need to have an elected position. You could be just as active as any other member in the assembly, and you can make a difference here on campus, even if you don't want to have to campaign.
And I would think we would all be remiss without saying that the best part of RUSA, by far, are these amazing maroon polos that we wear.
Oh, folks, I wish you could see them. They're quite something, and we might post photos later. Who knows? Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for having
Ryan.
us, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, you heard it here first. Definitely got to get out there, get the movement going, and get a voting representative on the Board of Governors. So we'll be right back with some more. Please stay tuned. We got a bunch more interviews coming up after this. But thanks again for being here, and stay tuned.